Yeah.
Yes, but not all to that either.
Sometimes I work late. How do you think? Yes.
Rabbi, we're almost done.
Good morning, Moray Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Berachot, and we are on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. 8 lines from the bottom. We're going to start the last part that we did yesterday. The promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given to women is greater even than that of the promise of men in their schar, the reward that they get. Shenemar, as it says, Nashim Shanano, the happy, comfortable women that there are. Botchot, Kom Nashmana Kori Benot Botchot, the ones that are confident. Hazena Imrati. So Rav tells his uncle Rabbi, Nashim B'maizach. And what is the special schut of the woman? We know actually there's a Mishnah at the end of Uktzin. At the end of Masechet Uktzin, there's a Mishnah that talks about the tzaddikim inheriting 310 worlds. Shai Olamot, they call tzaddik v'tzaddik. And the Mefarshim there explain that's because we have 620 mitzvot, 613 plus 7 mitzvot Rabbanan, and the wives get half of them, right? Every tzaddik's wife gets half of that. So Rav says to Rabbi, Nashim b'mai zachyan. What schut do they have? And the Gemara, there's an identical Gemara to this in Masechet Sotah Daf Chaf Aleph 21 as well. So the Gemara says, because they send their kids to Beit Midrash, to Beit Knesset, and they send their husbands to learn, they encourage them to go to Shiur, to go learn Torah. And they wait for their husbands to come, not just waiting at night to come from night seder or being able to send them early in the morning, but as we mentioned, many times it seems like the minhag was in the time of Chazal that they used to get married and go to do kollel for 12 years. Of course, you know the famous story of Rabbi Akiva, who got married. He went for 12 years, came back, heard the wife that's speaking to the neighbor, and said, I want him, if it was here and was listening to me, I would say go for another 12 years. You see the increments for 12 years. But that's not the only story. The Gemara there has a number of other stories for other Tanaim that they would get married and literally go off to a different city, to yeshiva, for 12 years, and then come back. And we mentioned the Gaon Chida that says that the reason was because we're giving chomesh on their life. 60 years is the adult life of a regular person's life expectancy, and they will give a chomesh, 20% of the life dedicated to HaKadosh Baruch Hu completely, and so on. And that's the reason that ladies have the schut of Torah, not just the schut of other mitzvot, but as we mentioned, you need the schut of Torah for Olam Haba. You need the schut of Torah for Tchiyat HaMetim, as the Gemara says in Masechet Ketubot on 111. So therefore, that is the schut of Torah for women. Actually, there are those who say that the schut of the woman is even greater than men, as the Gemara said. Why? Because ladies are supporting Torah Lishma. So they get schar as though they have 50% of the Torah, but what type of Torah? Torah that was learned Lishma, L'Shem Shamayim, Mamash, with the best kavanah. The husband that's learning, he may be dozing off, he may be looking at his message, right? Not the whole hour he's learning, and even if he's learning, someone's looking, maybe he's learning because he wants a little kavod. So maybe not the full Lishma Torah. So she gets a full 50% of the husband if he would be learning every moment of the day that he's there in the Beit Midrash and learning Torah Lishma. But the husband, well, that's a lot to work on, to learn Lishma and to learn every minute that she's there. So therefore, Gadol HaHaftacha, the greater is the Haftacha, the promise that the women have, than the ones that men have. This is said also by Yisachar and Zebulun. When you have Torah supporters, that they get also a chelik of the Torah learning that's done, they are supporting it lishma. They are there with their 50%, so to speak. but the person that's sitting has the achrayut, has the responsibility to do it, of course, properly. Ki havu mifteri Rabbanan miber Rab Ami, when in the Bet Midrash of Rab Ami, the Chachamim of the Bet Midrash would part ways. They would say, or there are those who say this was the Bet Midrash of Rabbi Hanina. They would say like this: Olamcha tireh bechayecha, you should see your world in your life. That means all the things that you need in your life, you should have it in your lifetime. So the dreaming about bare necessities, you should get everything that you need in your life. You should be zocher to have olam haba, and the hopes that you have should be not just for yourself, but it should come through for yourself, for your children, for your children's children. You should be learning Torah. And these are different levels, a depth of Torah. The Ben Yoyada, the Ben Ish Hai writes that these are references to different levels of the Torah and the understanding of the basic level of Pshat, and then Drash and Remez and Sod. Says the Gemara, Picha yegeh chokhmot, your mouth should be speaking in chokhmah, ulshoncha yacharish lenanot, and your tongue should be uttering songs of happiness of Torah. You should see direct, you should have a clarity of sight, of seeing things clearly in life, making clear decisions. Hashem should give you clarity, so to speak. Your light should be lit up in the Torah. Here's what the Ben Ish Hai says. This is talking about Sod already, the level of secrets of the Torah. Your face should be literally lit up from the Torah. Like Shlomo Melech says, Chokhmat Adam Ta'ir Panav. The Chokhmah of a person, your wisdom, Ta'ir Panav, will light up your face. You see, by Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was in the vicinity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for 40 days and 40 nights, receiving the Torah, he didn't know, but his face literally was lit up, and people would not be able to look at him unless he put a masveh, a cover on his head, because Chokhmat Adam Ta'ir Parav, the neshama literally shines through the face, through the skin of a person. That was the bracha they would give, that you should be such a holy person, so attached to Hashem, so attached to His Torah, that should be Panecha yazhiru kezohar harakia, siftotecha yabiu da'at. Your mouth, your lips should literally be emanating da'at and Torah. V'chilyotecha ta'alosna. You should be genuinely happy from within. Latata simcha belibi. Ta'alosna mesharim u'pa'amecha yarusu lishma divrei atik yomin. And your feet should be running to wanting to hear the words of Atik Yomin, which is a reference to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Midrash Rabbah says in Vayikra Rabbah that David HaMelech used to say, I wake up in the morning, I'm a king, I have so many things to do. I have to have this meeting and that deal and that fight and this war and that booty and all the things that a king has to be busy with. And he says, but my legs, my body naturally wants to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know what my default position is? I'm running to Bet Midrash. I have to force myself to go to the meeting. I have to force myself to go to the business deal. I have to force myself to go to do other things. But Be'emet, what I want to do is that's the bracha that I would give, that your body should be so attuned to Avodat Hashem that you should want to do that. That should be your default position, right? Not to to sit and do nothing, or even worse than that, but Be'emet, you should want to learn and to do. So says the Gemara, when Chachamim would leave the Bet Midrash of Rav Chisda, and those who say from the house of Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, they would say like this: Alufenu mesubalim. They would say the pasuk in Tehillim, Alufenu mesubalim, and Peretz, ve'en yotzet, ve'en tzvacha b'rechobotenu. The Gemara is going to go part by part and explain all of this. This pasuk. Now, there are two ways to understand the pasuk. To begin with, the Gemara says, Alufenu mesubalim. Rav Shmuel, they disagreed of how to explain this pasuk. Ve'amri la Rabbi Yochanan ve'Rabbi Elazar. Chad Amar, Alufenu beTorah. Aluf is master, is the highest level. Aluf is a general. Aluf is a head of a department. So Alufenu beTorah, our masters, our teachers in Torah, umesubalim b'mitzvot. It's not just that they're learning Torah, but it's a Torah that's lilmod al menat la'asot, that it penetrates every fiber of their being and it forms a human being that does the Torah. It's mesubalim b'mitzvot. They're loaded up with mitzvot. It's not just that they're learning Torah, but these are people who are doing everything that they learn as well. The Chadamar, the other one says no. Alufenu already includes both of those. What, you mean you have learning without doing? Of course, learning is lilmod al menat la'asot, lilmod ulamed lishmor la'asot. All of that is included in Alufenu already. Our masters, our masters, of course, is someone that learns, knows the entirety of Torah, but also does the entirety of Torah, teaches the entirety of Torah. So that's for sure given in the word Alufenu. So what is mesubalim? Mesubalim, which means comes from language of sevel, is being loaded. Being loaded, it says, that they are oftentimes, even despite difficulties, that they have lots and lots of yisurim, still does not stop them from learning, from doing, and from going on. So that's a real commitment. The commitment is not that everything is great and hunky-dory and beautiful, and then you learn. Even when things are difficult, I think I once spoke out that Shlomo Zalman Auerbach once was speaking to his brother. Well, I mentioned the other story once here that one of his talmidim, he was the Rosh Yeshiva of Kol Torah, one of his talmidim once said, when he was asked why he didn't come yesterday to the shiur, he said, oh, I had such a migraine headache, horrible, couldn't come. So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach told him, he said, if I would want to say that, I would never learn a day in my life. He had massive headaches every single day. And he was the Gadol Ador. And despite all the difficulties, he once told his younger brother, he said, you were born in the good times. In your time already, for a breakfast amongst the four brothers, we could divide for brunch, not even breakfast. We could divide an egg to 4 pieces and each one would have one. You were in the rich times you were born. Our time, when I was growing up, was much harder. So that's the level of aniyut that they grew up with, and that's what it says. It says Alufenu, they're masters, they're aluf, they're amazing, despite the fact that they are mesubalim, they are loaded with yisurim. And parents, now, according to this, what's the continuation of the pasuk? What exactly is the pasuk referring to? Now the Gemara over here is going to go through the timeline of history and their leaders, Alufenu, that we speak about, the leaders of Klal Yisrael, and see that some of them had some very unfortunate things that happened in their career as a leader. And when the pasuk says "en peretz ve'en yotzeh ve'en ba," that means we shouldn't have. That's the bracha that they would give in this yeshiva. That you shouldn't be like this person that had that downfall. You shouldn't be like the other one that had the other downfall. You shouldn't be like the third one with the third downfall. So that what is the reference of the pasuk? En peretz shelot hesiatenu k'siato shel David. That we shouldn't be, our history, our story, our group, our legacy should not be like David. She'atza mimenu Achitofel. It shouldn't be like David that Achitofel came from. Who was Achitofel? Achitofel was the greatest human capacity of mind ever, perhaps, that was mentioned in the Chumash, maybe aside from Shlomo HaMelech. It says in the pasuk, "Ve'atzat Achitofel asher ya'atz bayamim ha'el keshoel." When he gave an etzah, he was the yoetz of David HaMelech. He was the first advisor, the top advisor of David HaMelech's kingdom. And he says, "Atzat Achitofel asher ya'atz bayamim ha'el keshoel ba'urim." It was as if you asked directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu and you got a direct answer from Hashem. Can you imagine? The pasuk says something about a person like that, right? And he turned around and turned against David HaMelech because he was the great uncle of Bathsheba. When the whole story of Bathsheba happened, he joined forces with the son of David HaMelech, of Shalom, to head and to basically create the revolt that Avshalom did. He was his yoetz. And had he listened to Achitophel, David HaMelech would be dead meat. He told him that that night that he ran, David HaMelech had to run literally barefoot for his dear life from the capital, from his palace. He told him right now, go after him, do this and this and this, and kill him tonight. And Min HaShamayim, because Baruch Hu wanted that David HaMelech sent one of his friends that he bumped into on the way, and sent him. He said the only thing David HaMelech was worried for was he said I'm not worried about anyone else, even though that he has the majority of the government and so on. I'm only worried about Achitophel. Go there and hafer et asad Achitophel. Go and ruin the etzav Achitophel. Min HaShamayim. It was that Avshalom listened to this other guy and he rejected the etzav Achitophel, and that was his downfall, basically. That David HaMelech took back the melucha. But Achitophel that very day, as soon as he realized Avshalom is not listening to him, he went, he wrote his will, and he hung himself. Because he knew that David is going to come back if Avshalom does not listen to him. That's smart. But Rasha, the Mishnah, in the beginning of the 11th chapter of Chelek of Masechet Sanhedrin, of Tzadi, the Mishnah counts him as one of the 4 hedyotot that doesn't have a Chelek Le'olam Haba. He lost his Olam Haba. So our life, our thing should not be our legacy should not have somebody like Achitophel. Good. Ve'en yotzeh. So what's en yotzeh? Shelo teh siatenu ki siato shel Shaul. That it should not be like Shaul. What was Shaul's problem? Shaul was very close to another very, very, very great mind of Klal Yisrael. His name was Doeg HaEdomi. He was the head of Sanhedrin. He was Abir HaRoim, since the Gemara in Sotah, page 9. And he was tremendous. But he was jealous of David HaMelech, and he got involved with it, because when David HaMelech realized that Shaul wants to kill him, the first night that he attacked him in his home, and his wife, the daughter of Shaul, sent him off down from the window, and he just ran for his life. He went to Nov, the city of Kohanim, where he had left the sword of Goliath, when he killed him, as a sign of thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He put it in the Mishkan, so to speak, in the side thing, and he was starving. He had nothing. He didn't have time to take anything. He had no food and no sword. So he went there and said, "I'm starving. I'm going to die. I need some food." They didn't know that he had, he was running. He was against the king. King wanted him dead. They didn't know anything. So out of simplicity, they gave him the parts of lechem panim, even, which a regular person is not allowed to eat. But he was in a dire situation, and they said, "Can I take my sword?" He said, "Yes, yours. Take it." Doeg was there and saw this and went and slandered David to Shaul. So, he's running away, and he took the sword, and who supported him? Achimelech was the head of the Kohanim. Achimelech, he was the one that gave him a sword of Goliath and gave him lechem panim. Oh, they're revolting against you, all the Kohanim. And so Shaul said, "Kill all of them." Nobody of Avnei Shaul wanted to kill the city of Kohanim. So Shaul said, "Yalla, yourself do it." And Doeg HaEdomi literally went around killing every single Kohen of Nov Ira Kohanim. He killed them all out. And that Doeg HaEdomi became, you see, when you get involved in the Ga'ava is involved and so on, there's no end to what a person could do to save their image and to prove themselves right. It's just unbelievable. But nevertheless, Doeg is another one of the 4 that's counted in the Mishnah there. She'en lahem chelek le'olam haba. He doesn't have chelek le'olam haba. Who's the third one? Says the Gemara. Ben tzvacham shelo teheh siatenu ki siato shel Elisha. Elisha Navi had a shamash, right? And tzvacha is a reference that we should not be like Elisha, who had a problem in his legacy, and the problem in his legacy was his shamash Gehazi was a rasha merusha. What was the story of Gehazi? Gehazi was a rasha. We had it before by the story of Isha Shunamid. We explained it a little bit, but the downfall when it blew up was when Naaman, the top general of Aram, had sarat, and nobody could heal him. Nobody. They told him, "Oh, there's this guy Elisha. He's the top Navi, top prophet of the Jewish people. Go to him." He made fun of them. He said, "Oh, what do you have to lose? You're already passing by. Just go speak to him." He said, "I'm not going." He said, "Go." He said, "Fine, I'll go." So he comes to Elisha Navi. Elisha Navi says, go and on your way back home, just do a few tevilot in the river over here, and you'll be good. Yeah. And he made fun of them. He said, what? I have best rivers in the thing in Aram. I'm going to go to Yarden for what? I have much better water there. It's the same water that comes from heaven. It's what? He said, look, he told it to you. You're going anyways, right? So take a swim. And he did, and he came out of the water like a newborn, skin completely healed. By flabbergasted. He went back to thank Elisha Navi, and he wanted to give him tremendous riches and gifts, and Elisha did not take a penny. He said, no. Kiddush Hashem. So he sent him back. So Gehazi, when he saw that Elisha is now looking, he ran and said, oh, actually, my master said, give us this and 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 this. And of course, Naaman gave, but it was a tremendous Chilul Hashem. And he came back. Elisha said, you think I don't know where you went? You think I wasn't there when you took this and this and this and this and this? And he gave him a klala that he should be, the sara'at of Naaman should stick to him and his children forever. And that's the Arba'a Mesoraim. It was Gehazi and his children that he, for the rest of his life, it was Mesorah. So why is it Svacha, by the way? Svacha, because a Mesorah has to scream, Tameh, Tameh Yikra. When he goes, the people should not come close to them. So that's why the reference to Svacha. By the way, Gemara says elsewhere that Gehazi was, Gemara in Sanhedrin mentioned that Gehazi, Gehazi was the one that put the Shema Meforash in the mouth of the Egel HaZahav, of the golden calf that Yarovam ben Nevadi made. And the Egel, the golden calf, was screaming, Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeticha Meretz Mitzrayim, Lo Yeh Lecha Elokim Acharim Al Panai. Who did that? Gehazi did it. So that's another one of Svacha, referencing the Svacha, the screaming that the golden calf was doing because of Gehazi. So that's, again, the bracha that they would give, that you should be successful in everything and you shouldn't have these types of negativities attached to you. Okay.
Be like 400 years old.
Yeah, okay, so that's a good question. Again, we mentioned the tefillah of Rav just yesterday, right? Rav's tefillah was Chaim Aruchim, Chaim Shel Shalom, Chaim Shel Shalva. The tefillah that we say in tefillah Rosh Chodesh, Ashkenazim say it even more officially, and so on. Maran Chida writes in Petach Enayim, I think he writes it. He says the tefillah of Rav was accepted because he brings from the Seder Hadorot of Rambam that Rav lived 300 years. So every day he would daven, Hashem should give us Chaim Aruchim, Chaim Shel Shalom, so on. It actually did happen. He was from Mishpachat Briim, Chaim Shel Shalom, and he had a very long life. So yes, you have people who lived unusually long lives. So says the Gemara. What's the last part? So you shouldn't be like Gehazi berchovotenu shelo te'elanu ben o talmid, that we shouldn't have a child or a student shemakdiach tafshilo barabim, that embarrasses us publicly because it's a cause of public embarrassment because of their deeds. By two dots. Says the Gemara, Shimu Elai Avir Elev, listen to me, Avir Elev, the ones with strong heart, Harechokim Mitztaka, that they're far from tzedakah. Now, this is simply speaking, the pasuk in Yeshaya speaking about tzaddikim. So what does he mean, Avir Elev, the ones you have a strong heart and they're far from tzedakah? You're speaking about tzaddikim. So what do you mean far from tzedakah? Says the Gemara, the two main ways to understand this pasuk. One is that Avir Elev, strong heart, is a positive thing. The other one is that Avir Elev is a negative thing. So what is it? Says the Gemara, Shimu Elai Avir Elev, Harchokim Mitztaka, Rav Shmuel, Ve'amri Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Elazar. Same lineup. There are those who say it's Rav and Shmuel. There are those who say it was Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. Chad Amar, one of them said, Kol ha'olam kulo nizonin bistaka. The entire world is nizon bistaka. The Gemara says at the end of Masechet Pesachim, Hanau chaf vav kilo olam hasto sha'amaran David keneged man. We say in Halel HaGadol every Shabbat morning right before Baruch She'amar, we have Halel HaGadol, right? And at the end of Halel HaGadol is Hodu Hashem kilo olam chasto, kilo olam chasto, kilo olam chasto, 26 kilo olam chastos. The Gemara in Pesachim asks at the end, says, why 26 kilo olam chasto? Kilo olam chasto means Hashem's chesed is forever. And chesed, by the way, is different than rachamim. Chesed means when the recipient is not deserving. Rachamim is a compassion within reason. Chesed is with no reason, just give, without any deserving, right? They're not deserving and you still give. So what's it? Kil olam hasa Hashem's chesed forever. Says the Gemara, these are the 26 generations of creation before the Torah was given. From Adam HaRishon until Moshe Rabbeinu is 26 generations. You can count them, you can figure it out. But those 26, they had no zchut hakiyum. The world only stands because there is Torah learning. Im lo briti yomam v'layla, says the pasuk, chuko shamayim v'aretz lo samti. I would not create the world would not stand if it wasn't because of my Torah. So 26 generations. Shezan otam behasto. Gemara says Hashem gave them free life, free, right? Gave them free life. So that's kilo olam hasto. So says the Gemara, if you're not keeping Torah, your life is a hesed. Kol haolam kulo nizonim b'staka. It's the staka v'kadosh baruch hu that you're getting. The entire world is getting staka v'Hashem. Vehem nizonim b'zroa. But these people don't rechokim mitztaka. Avir elev, the tzaddikim who don't need the staka v'Hashem. They earn it. They earn their gain by learning Torah, by keeping the mitzvot, by being tzaddikim and close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that's one understanding of the pasuk. The other one, Chad Amar, no. Kol haolam kulo nizonim b'schutam. The whole world is nizon in their zchut. These tzaddikim are so big that the entire world is being sustained from their zchut. They're the underwriters of the entire paycheck of the government PPE of the whole world, and they themselves, they don't even use their own zchuyot. What's the prime example of this, Rabotai? We had in Masechet Ta'anit, Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa, right? Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Kol yom vayom bat kol yotzet mehar chorev. Every day there is a bat kol, heavenly voice that comes out from Har Chorev, aka Har Sinai. Ve'omeret kol haolam kulo. The entire world, nizon, is sustained. Bishvil Hanina beni, because of Hanina, my son. The Hanina beni and Hanina himself. Dailo bekaf charuvin be'erev Shabbat le'erev Shabbat. He was a ani marud. He was a tremendous ani. He had nothing. He didn't have bread. He had just a kaf charuvin from erev Shabbat to erev Shabbat. Again, we explained this at length when we did Masechet Ta'anit together. But nevertheless, that's the explanation of the Gemara that the entire world could be nizonim b'schutam vehem enam nizonim afilu b'schut atzman. That the whole world uses their zchuyot and they don't even use their own zchuyot. Again, when the Chaim Kanievsky passed away, alav shalom, a few months ago, we saw this bemo enayim, that for all these years that the Stifler and the Chazon Ish and the Chaim were alive and learning Torah in their own little, dinky house, little small room, nothing happened bad in Bnei Brak. Nothing went wrong. As the promise of Chazon Ish was, he said, the war, the bombs never will come here. Moment that he passed away, like literally afterwards, he had the massacres and they had the terrorist attacks. The whole world was protected with one little person sitting and learning, and we don't see it. We see Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa say, poor guy, let me give him tzedakah. A little you know that everything that you have in your mansion and your car and everything else is bischut Rabbi Hanina ben Dosa. So says the Gemara. Upliga de Rav Yehuda. Now, this whole thing of Abir Elev being a positive interpretation is a machloket. Rabbi Yehuda does not agree with that. He holds it's a negative. Dama Rav Yehuda, man Abir Elev, who is Abir Elev? Govai Tipshai, this fool Govai is the name of a place. And Amar Rav Yosef Teda, you know how you know that their IQ is that of a potato? That they're tipshim, they're not smart. That never ever a ger tzedek has come from them. If they were smart, they would see it. They would have gerim, right? Amar Abashi, b'nei Mata Mechasya, the people of Mata Mechasya, Avira Levni. They are the real Avira Lev. They have a heart. They have a heavy heart that they don't do tshuva, even though that they see tremendous things. What's why? They see the kavod of Torah twice a year, and never a ger tzedek has come from them. Now, what is the ikara doraita? Because twice a year they had the drasha, they had the yearly communal drasha, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people would get together for learning Torah. And the Midrash elsewhere says that this was a time that twice a year Amud Esh would come down, just like Amud Esh was by the Jews in the Midbar. There was a pillar of fire, literally, in the eyes of the Goyim, and they would see this twice a year, and they would not become ger tzedek. Says the Gemara, that's Avira Lev. You have to have a heart of a stone to see those types of things and not want to become a ger tzedek. Fine. Says the Gemara. Chatan, back to our main sugya of saying Kriyat Shema. We said in the Gemara that Chatan, the Mishnah, the Chatan that wants to say Kriyat Shema. Chachamim said he could, and Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel was the one in the Mishnah that says, "Lo kol harotzeh litol et Hashem yavo b'itol." That not everyone that wants to be mahmir, we allow him to be mahmir. Right? Chachamim said, "Well, if you want to be mahmir, kol hakavod, tavo alav bracha." Rabban Shimon says, "Absolutely not. You're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to be mahmir." Have you ever heard a rabbi say you're not allowed to be mahmir? There it is. I had a friend. His father is a big posek in Mexico City. And he has, in his Sfarim, he has written over 60 Sfarim. He always says, "Mahmir yesh lo al ma lismoch." He says, if you want to be mahmir, okay, in this case, you could be mahmir. So his son, I asked him, I said, what kind of lashon is this? He said, because my father holds that to be mahmir, you have to really know that you could be mahmir. Not every humrah is good, right? So here's the same thing. Says the Gemara, remember that what's the reason? Why in the world would you not be mahmir? If the Chatan says, guys, I want to read Shema the first night of wedding, what's the problem? So read Shema. What's the big deal? Says the Gemara, because of Yuhara. Yuhara is a translation of Ga'ava. It's presumptuous. It's presumptuous to do something. You are giving this notion of that I'm better than thou, I'm better than everyone else, that I could have kavanah and say Shema B'Torah. You patur, don't do it. You're trying to show that you are perhaps better than other people. That's not a positive thing. Says the Gemara. You want to suggest that Chachamim are not choshesh? They're not concerned about this concept of yuara, that it looks like you have gava. We see in other Mishnah that seems to be exactly the opposite. This is in Perek Makom Shnagu in Masachet Pesachim. Says the Gemara, Makom Shnagu Lasun Melchavit Tisha B'Av Osin. The Sheila is it mutar to work at Tisha B'Av or is it not mutar to work at Tisha B'Av? So it says Makom Shnagu. If you have a place that the minhag is to work on Tisha B'Av Osin, you could do it. Makom Shnagu Shelo Lasot. If the minhag is not to do it, Osin, then you don't do it. Fine. We call Makom Tamilach Hamim B'Tedim. And in every place, Tamilach Hamim should be mahmir. In other words, regardless of your minhag of the place, if you're a Tamilach Hacham, you're not working. You're not allowed to work. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, that's Chachamim. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Le'olam ya'aseh kol adam et atzmo k'tamilach Hacham. Everyone should make themselves like a Tamilach Hacham. Be mahmir. Wait a second. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel was the one that said, don't be mahmir. Don't look like a Tamilach Hacham if you're not one. Here he says, no, be like a Tamilach Hacham, be mahmir. And Chachamim who said, do it, over here say, no. You follow the minhag. So which one is it? Kasha the Rabbanan, Kasha the Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Ad Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Both of them are a question on each other. So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mukhlefet Hashita. Rabbi Yochanan says, you're correct, is a problem. And the Girsa in the Mishnah in Pesachim should be reversed. In other words, our Girsa over here is the Ikar. That Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is the one that says, don't be mahmir. Rabbanan say, if you want to be mahmir, kol hakavod, be mahmir. Over there also it should be like that. That Chachamim say that if you want to be like a Tamil Chacham, kol hakavod, do don't work on Tisha B'Av, even if the minhag of your place is to work, and be mahmir. And Rabbi Shlomo says, no. If your minhag of the place is to be working, go work. Don't stand out. That should be the right Gisa. Rav Shaisha bred Rav Idi Amar Be'olam lo tachlif. Rav Shaisha, the son of Rav Idi, said, no, you don't need to change the Girsa. You can establish the Girsa that we have as it is, and the Girsa in Mishnah Pesachim as it is, and it's not a kasha. You know why it's not a stira? It's not a contradiction between the two members, the two wordings of Rabban Shimon Gamliel and Nor Chachamim, because the Rabbanan lo kasha, there's no question, there's no stira within Rabbanan. Kevan de kule alma kakaru ve'ihu namikari. He's not standing out. You arise when you stand out. Here you're not standing out. Everyone is saying Shema. Like the 200 people at the wedding, they're saying Shema, and you say Shema also. So you're saying that you're like another person, just another person. You're not standing out doing something people don't do. You're doing what people do. So therefore, that's not a problem. But when you have to do something different, when you have to work, when not work, when everyone is working, right? And they call you, text you, say, where are you? You say, I'm not working this Tisha B'Av. Not working. So that's gava, that's presumptuous. He's standing out, everyone's working. So the minhag is to him. Says, no, I'm a tameh hakam, right? I like it, so that's already presumptuous, not right. But when you're not standing out, everyone's saying Shema, you're saying Shema as well with it, that's fine. Says the Gemara, that does not look like you are because you're not standing out. Here, because everyone is doing melacha and you're standing out by not working, you look at it, it's not working. That looks like you are. The Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, no kasha, and the sack of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel also is not a stira, is not a contradiction. Why? Because hatam over there, the kavana talia milta. It depends all on kavanah. We know that the chatan cannot have kavanah. So therefore, Rabban Shimon Gamliel says you can't be mahmir because you are falsifying your level of chumrah, and we know you can't have kavanah. So just don't say it. Why do you want to say it when your mind is all over the place at the night of wedding and you can't have kavanah? So if you're patu, just don't do it. But over here, says Rabban Shimon Gamliel, what's the big deal? Not working. You know, there are so many people who don't have work, right? Says the Gemara, Aval Hacha, by the work on Tisha B'Av sugya, Haroeh Omer Melachahu de'oeno. When someone sees you not working, says, oh, poor guy, he was laid off. Or poor guy, or rich guy, he doesn't have to work. Now he hit the jack. Who knows why he's not working? There's so many people who are not working, taking off a day. So it doesn't look like gava. But when people see a hatan is saying Shema at night, say, who does he think he is? He really has kavanah for sure not. Give me a break. So that looks like gava. Because it's the mindset of the people who the elo pukhazi kama batlani kabashuka, go see how many people are not working on a regular day, and that is the conclusion of our perek. Baruch Adonai Olam, amen, amen. We're going to continue starting the third perek in the days to come.